Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar dedicated to support Ukrainians in California. And over the past year, beginning in January 2025, the immigrants and refugee community has faced turbulent times. And today we will provide in this depth presentation on recent policy changes, available resources, and important knowledge for Ukrainian communities across California. And my name is Irina Osacha. I am a refugee health navigator at Center for Immigrants and Refugee Health. Like many Ukrainians, I was forced to leave my home due to the ongoing war, and countless family, including children, has to feel without opportunity to return safely. And now many seek refugee and have a chance to rebuild their life in the United States. And it's truly a pleasure to introduce our speaker today, who will guide us through this important discussion and show the lines of the challenges and resilience of Ukrainians in California. And today agenda is we're gonna talking about UHP Parole status and TPS status update. And just to remind you, UHP it stands for Ukrainian Humanitarian Parole, and TPS it stands for Temporary Protected Status. We will talk more in details about that and what the main challenges UHP and TPS status holder facing right now. What's the backlog of UCAS backlog? And we will address the most common asked questions from the community and what the uncertain questions they have. And by the end of this presentation, we have about 10-15 minutes for a Q&A session. And some of you already submitted this question through the Google form, which you will address which we will address by the end of this presentation. And if you have additional questions, please feel free to fill out the same form via the email, or it's also will be sharing shortly in the chat. And as time allows us, we will make sure they will be answered by Vera. And the recording of this webinar will be emailed to all participants by the next week. And now it's a great pleasure to introduce our speaker, Vera Sirova. Since February 2022, Vera has been assisting and guiding Ukrainian newcomers, and she is attorney and dedicated volunteer with Nova Ukraine, providing pro bono services to Ukrainian parolees resettling in United States. And her work influences helping families secure public benefits and accessing in-state tuition. And Vera insights on issues affecting Ukrainians have been featured in Wall Street Journal and the New Voice of Ukraine. And we honored to have her with us today to share her expertise and experience. And on this note, I will be stop sharing a screen and give the floor to Vera.
Thank you, Irina. Hello, everyone. Let me first of all try to share my screen and not mess it up again so that I can navigate the slides more easily. Let's see if this works. Irina, let me know if you see the screen.
Yeah, it looks great.
Okay. So a couple words about myself. Irina kind of gave already a preview of who I am. I'm an attorney. I'm based in Los Angeles, California. My primary work is actually not connected to immigration, but I have been volunteering with a nonprofit organization, Nova Ukraine, which is also based in California, since the beginning of the war. Nova Ukraine has provided a lot of humanitarian aid directly to Ukraine. Their primary activity is to help Ukraine directly, but they also have a group of people who are responsible and have been responsible for helping Ukrainians who come here to America in relation to the war, and helping them with housing, helping them with their immigration questions, with getting them connected to services, helping them obtain benefits. We really started working with Ukrainians in America at the very start of the war, even before the Uniting for Ukraine program. At that time, there was a little bit of a crisis on the border because people were coming to the southern border. Mostly at that time, it were people who had friends or family in the United States, and they were trying to enter the United States to join their friends or family for the time of the war to find shelter and refuge. There were so many of them that the border control could not process them efficiently, so they were camping out in Tijuana at the southern border. And we were traveling to Tijuana to help them. We had a big camp for them to make sure they're safe while they're waiting to cross the border, that they have food, that they have shelter. And then once they crossed to the United States, we connected them to the resources. We made sure they had a place to stay. If they were flying to their relatives in another state, we made sure they had plane tickets and had somewhere to spend the night and so on. And then later, when the administration opened the Uniting for Ukraine program and people started flying into the United States instead of crossing the land border, we refocused more on providing housing to people who were in need of it, which there were many, and also connecting them, as I said, to various resources and helping them navigate their new life and resettle in the United States. So in the course of this, we have been, reaching out to the United States Immigration Service under the previous administration, at least. At least I worked with the USCIS and was kind of a liaison for Ukrainians, and we communicated with the Immigration Service to help Ukrainians solve their problems that they were having with filing their immigration applications, to get guidance from immigration. We also worked with the media to highlight problems faced by Ukrainians in the media. Now, under this administration, things have changed significantly, as you all know, but we're still doing our best to help Ukrainians and to advocate for them. So today, in today's webinar, I want to give a pretty high-level overview of what statuses Ukrainians are in here in the United States and what are the challenges that they face, especially in this year under the new administration. What are the common challenges that they face, and that they what questions they might come to you with, if you're providing services or guidance to them. So, as you may know, most Ukrainians, at least those who came to the United States during the war, and we'll be focusing on that group today, they are in so-called UHP parole. UHP stands for Ukrainian Humanitarian Parole. And this is a parole that was given to them if they came under the U4U program, Uniting for Ukraine program. So the program existed since from April of 2022 until January of 2025. So that once Trump took office, he closed the program. So no new Ukrainians are coming under this program anymore. But those who have come during those, almost 3 years, most of them are still in the United States. Some have left, but most are still here. Originally, when they were coming under that program, they were usually given a 2-year parole. And the administration has allowed them to extend that parole if it's expiring, because the war, as you know, is still ongoing. We're now, our 4th year into the war. So people most of them have already extended their parole once, and now some of them are extending it for yet another time, for yet another 2 years. Most of Ukrainian parolees have UHP class of admission. That is what's written on their I-94 form as their official status in which they arrived in the country. Some of them may have DT class of admission. This is mostly people who came before U4U program opened, who came through the southern border, or some of them came through Canadian border. There are relatively few of those people, but some of them still live in the United States, and they may have DT class of admission. However, the administration treats them all as UHPs, as Ukrainian parolees, regardless of what's written in their forms. If they came here because of the war and they are Ukrainians, they will be treated as UHPs. So the UHP parolees were given by the previous administration certain rights to benefits. So they're eligible for Medi-Cal in California if they're low income. They're also eligible to buy health insurance from Covered California Marketplace if they make more than the Medi-Cal threshold. They're also eligible for assistance. They can get cash assistance if it's a low-income family. It's California's CalWorks program for families with minor children, or it's SSI, Supplemental Security Income Program for elderly and disabled adults. And also California makes parolees eligible for CAPI program if they cannot get SSI because of their immigration status or for certain reasons. So CAPI is the California analog to the SSI program. So parolees were also eligible for food stamps, which in California are called CalFresh, at least until recently. As you may have heard, the big, beautiful bill has made immigrants largely ineligible for food stamps. We do not yet know how California is going to interpret that in relation to its own laws, because California has a food stamp fund of its own, and it provides food stamps of certain immigrants even if they're not eligible under federal law. So California has not yet issued guidance as to whether parolees are still going to be eligible for food stamps or not. So that's up in the air. Parolees are also eligible for federal grants and loans for tuition purposes. I know some of you work with people in education space, so this may be important for you to know that if a person is a UHP parolee, they can usually get a Pell Grant if they're going to college, or if they already have a higher education from Ukraine, and they're getting a master's degree here, they can get federal loans as well. This only applies to those parolees who came on or before September 30, 2024. Unfortunately, these funds for this aid were allocated based on each fiscal year. And after September 30, 2024, there was no budget anymore for Ukrainians. So that's the cutoff date for FAFSA eligibility. Ukrainians are also entitled to help of resettlement agencies. The resettlement agencies only serve those who arrived before that cutoff date, because again, the federal funds have only been allocated up to that date. So resettlement agencies, as you may know, are agencies who are traditionally helping refugees resettle. So they have a lot of useful resources in terms of cultural adjustment, in terms of finding employment, in terms of helping people with their immigration applications. They also have a special housing program for Ukrainians called Housing Assistance for Ukrainians, which was a fund that was federally allocated to California specifically to help Ukrainians with housing. The program helps it provides rental assistance for 6 months. As far as I know, the enrollment into this program is winding up. So I think they're accepting people until the end of the year, if I'm not mistaken. But as of today, there's still funds in this program. And if you have Ukrainian clients who have UHP parole and who are struggling to pay rent, you can refer them to their resettlement agencies for housing assistance program. The California Department of Social Services has a list of these agencies. I don't know if you see it on my screen, but they have this file which lists agencies in every county and every big city. So you can refer to this file to find the agency to refer your clients to. So what are the common challenges faced by Ukrainian parolees in California? So first, and probably the biggest one right now, is the application for reparole. As I said, their status is only given for 2 years, and they have to then apply for renewal of the status unless they want to leave the country. So the renewal is called reparole. So first of all, the new administration has made any and all humanitarian programs very pricey for applicants. So now reparole application costs $1,325 upfront if they're also applying for work permit as part of it. And in addition to that, they have to pay $1,000 at the time of approval. Even if the family is low income, not all of these fees can be waived based on low income. So even a low income family has to pay $1,275 per person. So if it's, for example, a family of four, they have to shell out $5,000, more than $5,000, just to get reparole. Unfortunately, for many families, especially families with many children, these costs prove to be prohibitive. So some people leave just because they cannot afford to extend their status under this new prices. The second challenge they face is the complexity of the reparole application. This administration has started requiring more evidence in support of it. So it's not enough to show that you're Ukrainian and you came here because there's war in Ukraine. You have to actually provide a detailed statement showing how the war affected you, or what other reasons do you have to stay here in the US and why you cannot leave. A lot of people do not understand how to prepare this application and supporting documents. They don't understand what they need to write about. They have difficulty writing a story in English because their English is not good. So this generates many questions right now, and unfortunately, it's often prohibitive for people to hire an immigration lawyer to do that, because immigration attorneys also charge about $1,000 to do this, which just adds on to the reparole fees. So oftentimes, this is where resettlement agencies can help, because they have legal departments who have free immigration help, provides free immigration help services. And so they can help people prepare these affidavits in support of their reparole application. So if your clients come to you with concerns how to apply for reparole and how to prepare this evidence, you can refer them to the resettlement agency. So long as their previous parole is still valid, the resettlement agency should be able to help them to apply for extension. And another challenge in connection with reparole is that the processing times for these applications have become very lengthy and unpredictable under the new administration. Under Biden, we saw these applications approved in 2 to 3 months normally. Now it takes, oftentimes 8 to 14 months. So this results in people falling out of status and their work permits lapsing, and they face all the consequences of that, like layoffs at work and so on. So some other challenges focused on the educational space, which is relevant for some of you. For UHPs, as you understand, they already have spent here several years. They have kids growing up. The kids want to go to college, so a lot of them face the question of, can we afford college, or how do we allow our kids to get education? So unfortunately, community colleges in California do not allow parolees to establish residence for tuition purposes. There was what's called a 1-year exemption in place, which allowed them to be considered resident for their first year in California. But this 1-year exemption has now ran up for pretty much everyone, because the program has already closed a year ago. So everybody who's here has been here for a year now. So going forward, unfortunately, people who have UHP parole, if they do not have TPS, which we'll talk about later, or some other status, they are not eligible to be considered residents in community colleges. So, and with that, the cost of non-resident tuition community colleges can be prohibitive oftentimes. So for young people who want to go to community college, or for adults who want to, acquire a new profession because maybe their Ukrainian education does not really apply here, that's a challenge for them, how to pay for college. The state universities, Cal State and UC, do allow parolees to establish residence if they have lived in California for more than a year. However, the challenge we see here oftentimes is that, as you may know, colleges require you to show that you have been living in the state for more than a year by presenting your California tax returns, your California voter registration, your California driver's license, your California car registration. And people who are in a refugee situation basically oftentimes do not have these documents, because they may not drive and have a car. They may not make enough to file tax returns. So by the time they come to the time of college application, turns out they do not have these documents. So if you're working with a high school, with families who have high school children who consider going to college, you should advise them to get these documents as soon as possible, because by the time they enroll in college, these documents have already been a year old. So advise them that, even if they don't make enough money or have no income, they should still file a tax return, even if it's zero amount. If they don't drive, they should get an ID card, California ID card, nonetheless, so that they have these documents that can help them prove residence when the time comes for them to go to college. So the complementary part of this is financial aid for college. As I mentioned before, parolees are eligible for FAFSA, which usually includes Pell Grant for people who do not have higher education, and federal loans for people who do have bachelor's degree. However, FAFSA is only available to parolees who arrived on or before September 30, 2024. There is a portion of parolees who arrived after that date, so they won't be eligible for FAFSA. Even for those who are eligible, colleges oftentimes, unfortunately, are unaware of this eligibility, and they get confused, and they require Ukrainian parolees to provide proof that they have applied for a green card to be eligible for FAFSA. And so people face, unfair denials just because the colleges are not aware of these rules and not well educated on them. So the FSA handbook actually has a whole section on Ukrainians. If you open the student eligibility volume and you search for Ukraine here, there's a whole section on Ukrainian citizens and nationals, which outlines the rules, special rules for Ukrainians. And it does say here that unlike other parole applicants, Ukrainians are not required to have been paroled for at least 1 year, and they are not required to show that they have applied for a green card. So sometimes you just need to literally highlight this section for the college and send it to the college financial aid department to show them that this person is eligible for financial aid. The other problem that often happens is that when colleges try to verify the parolee's status with DHS, which they have to do for all immigrants, DHS takes many weeks to send a response to them to confirm the status, and this results in delays of financial aid disbursement. So the school year starts, the student has to pay for college, they have no money to pay, and their financial aid is sitting in limbo because the college cannot verify the status with DHS. There's also a rule for that in the same FAFSA handbook, which says the college must disburse aid if delays more than 15 business days. Again, same chapter of the handbook. It says here in a section for colleges how to verify the status, it says if after at least 15 business days there is no response and the documentation that the student presented shows that they're eligible, the college can disburse aid. So this is something that the student should also sometimes show to their college and request that the aid be disbursed so they can start studies even while the college is awaiting confirmation of their status. And of course, the FAFSA eligibility only lasts as long as the person's parole is valid. So as we discussed, the parole is given for 2 years, and the person have to apply for extension. The extensions are often delayed. People fall out of status. So if they are applying for FAFSA during the period when they're out of status and they're waiting for their parole to be renewed, their FAFSA is not going to be approved, and the college is not going to disburse aid. So that is another issue people face, and in this case, they should contact USCIS and request that their parole application be expedited on this request so that they can get their financial aid in time. So the other status you have probably seen and worked with is temporary protected status. This is a little bit of a different animal than parole. Temporary protected status is granted to people who are already in the United States. That's not something they arrive with. That's something they get once they are already here. This is a status that basically is meant to protect people from removal and detention if they don't have a green card or any other status, but there is some humanitarian disaster in their country which prevents them from returning. So temporary protected status is currently available only to Ukrainian citizens who arrived on or before August 16, 2023. It does not matter how they arrived. They could have come under the FOU program. They could have been paroled on the Mexican or Canadian border. They could have come on a tourist visa or a student visa. So long as they're Ukrainians and they've arrived before this cutoff date, they can apply and receive temporary protected status. It's given usually for 18 months at a time. Currently, it is given to everyone until October 19, 2026. That's the end of the 18-month period. So all TPS holders, Ukrainian TPS holders, have TPS until this date. The applications are currently closed. Their filing period has ended. However, under certain circumstances, Ukrainians may have the right to late filing. So if somebody comes to you and asks whether they can still apply for TPS and they're a Ukrainian citizen and they've arrived to the country before August 16, 2023, the answer is maybe, and you need to refer them to an immigration attorney who will look into their situation and determine whether they're eligible for late filing. TPS holders in California are eligible to Medi-Cal health insurance as well as covered California health insurance, but they're not eligible to any other assistance unless they also have UHP parole. So TPS and UHP parole are kind of complementary. A person can have both if they are applied under, if they arrived under UHP parole and subsequently received TPS, in which case they get the benefit of both statuses. But if they only has TPS and no parole, then the only help they can get from the government basically is health insurance. And even that is being limited starting next year. California will no longer enroll adults over 21 years of age if they in Medi-Cal if they only have TPS. So those who are already on Medi-Cal in TPS status, they can continue having it, but California will no longer enroll new applicants into Medi-Cal. So if you have clients who are only in TPS status and they are low income and they don't have Medi-Cal, advise them that they should enroll before January 1st, because after that, they may no longer be able to enroll in Medi-Cal. So some of the challenges that TPS holders face, some of the most common ones. First of all, again, it's documentation. Same as with reparole, the processing times for TPS are very lengthy. Usually, when a person applies for TPS, it takes the government up to 2 years to review and approve their application. And during this time period, the person can be in this gray zone where they kind of allowed to stay in the US, but they don't have any proof of status. They don't have any proof of work permit. They're at risk of detention because of this. So this creates a lot of uncertainty for TPS holders. And there's also widespread confusion as to the dates of the TPS and until what date does each particular TPS holder has TPS. So the way the statutory scheme works is, as I said, TPS is given to the country for 18 months. Currently, it's given until October 19, 2026. So everybody who has already once received TPS, they have TPS until that date. Even if the person received TPS back in 2022, let's say, because TPS has been extended for Ukraine as a whole, it has been extended for all its holders automatically until October 19, 2026. So everybody who has TPS has it until that date. However, the documentation that people receive only reflects their the period of the current TPS designation. So, for example, if the person who has this document, right, received TPS in December of 2023, they were given this approval notice until April of 2025, which was the end date at the time this approval notice was given. Even though the TPS has been subsequently extended to October 2026, this person has not yet received their new paperwork, which reflects that new period. So they literally have no document to prove that they have TPS until October 2026. And this results in a confusion at DMVs, at work, because people can get laid off because they don't have proof of status or work permit until the new date. It results in confusion at USCIS because USCIS officers also often don't understand this. And even among immigration attorneys who often don't understand this. So unfortunately, because of this, even though the people in TPS are in valid status, they still sometimes get laid off. They still sometimes get detained just because of this misunderstanding that they're still in valid status. In terms of educational benefits, TPS holders are, unlike parolees, are eligible to establish residency in community colleges as well as state universities if they have lived in California for over a year. However, they are not eligible for federal grants and loans under FAFSA unless they also have a UHP parole. So if a student only has TPS and nothing else, they should look at other options, how to pay for college. One option, if they go to community college, California community colleges offer a California Promise Grant program. It is basically a waiver of college fees, community college fees for low-income residents. If the person can show that they're on Medi-Cal or they're low income, they can go to college for free. This program is available only to residents. So, but again, because TPS holders can establish residence, they are potentially eligible for Promise Grant. For universities, California has a DREAM Act law, which allows undocumented students and students in various other statuses like TPS receive state financial aid for college if they have attended a high school in California and graduated it within 3 years. I'm sorry, attended it for 3 years and graduated it. Again, DREAM Act, it's a statewide program. It's described at the California State Aid Commission website. There's a separate application to it that is kind of parallel to FAFSA. But for persons who have attended school for 3 years here, this is an option if they're not eligible for FAFSA. And the other option is under the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. Counties run this program to help, among other things, underemployed immigrants to acquire a new profession or acquire employment. And they have various training programs. They sometimes pay for certain college programs. They also work with immigrant youth. The only requirement for this program is to be work authorized. Otherwise, it does work with immigrants. That said, the current administration is trying to attack these programs to eliminate options for financial aid for undocumented students and TPS holder students. So they have been suing California to declare the DREAM Act unlawful and to repeal it. And they have also took issue with WIOA programs, subsidies to immigrants, and they've tried to challenge that as well. So it's hard. So far, these programs are available, but it's hard to say for how many more months or years we'll have them available. And finally, the other category of Ukrainians you will probably meet are undocumented Ukrainians. Unfortunately, most of people who end up being undocumented are, they came here under U4U program or otherwise legally, but their status has expired. Although they have, most of them have pending applications for reparole or TPS, because of the backlogs, because of the delays with USCIS, approval of those applications takes many months, which results for most people at some point in the lapse of status, in the lapse of their work authorization. They get laid off from work, or some employers agree to give them kind of a furlough until they receive the new status. But a lot of people face this issue. Then, if they get laid off, even when they do receive their status extension and do receive the new work permit, that work permit is only valid for a year. And it's very, very hard for people to find a new job with a year-long work permit because most employers do not want to hire people for a year. They want to hire long-term. So this lapse of status results in the risk of ICE detention because ICE is not at all understanding of these problems or of delays and backlogs. If they apprehend a person who is out of status and who has pending application, they will treat that person as undocumented. They will detain that person, and it's almost impossible for Ukrainian parolees to get out of the detention unless they have TPS, which protects them from detention. So if a parolee who is out of status is working Uber or working, as a tracker, that those are the places where they oftentimes get stopped and detained. Also, recently we have seen detentions at a green card interviews in San Diego. Apparently, if a person comes for a green card interview because they married an American citizen and they're eligible for a green card, but if they don't at the time of the interview have any other status other than the green card application, they may get detained because they're out of status. And so that's a big risk and a big problem. Lapse of status also results in lapse of benefits, lapse of college financial aid. So unfortunately, this category of people is the most vulnerable because they don't have work permits, they lose their jobs, they have nothing, no income to pay rent from, but they're also not eligible for any government assistance. Food stamps are not available to them, housing assistance are not available to them because all government funds and even state funds are conditional on being in status. So these people, unfortunately, they get it the hardest. Starting January of next year, California will no longer enroll adults over 18 years old in Medi-Cal if they have no proof of legal presence or status. So that means, a person who may have a good job today and they may have employer, sponsored health insurance. If their parole ends tomorrow, they'll lose their job, they'll lose their employer-based health insurance. They may no longer be eligible for Medi-Cal because they're now out of status in California, does not enroll them anymore. So they may be out of options how to get health services. And unlike other states, which, like some Republican states, for example, which historically have had a high uninsured population, and therefore they have community health centers, which have programs for uninsured population. California does not have that to the same extent, or at least it's not communicated because everybody currently has health insurance in California. Everybody's on Medi-Cal. So next year, when California stops enrolling people in Medi-Cal, a lot of people may be confused as to how can they get health services, where can they go? So they may be coming with those questions to you. Undocumented people also have challenges in getting driver's licenses extended. Even though California has AB 60 law, which specifically was enacted by the state to provide driver's license to undocumented people, unfortunately, DMVs oftentimes deny Ukrainians these driver's licenses because what happens is when Ukrainians come to extend their driver's licenses, they oftentimes bring their notices that they have applied for extension of their parole, or they have applied for TPS. They're trying to give DMV some documents that they're here, that they're not completely illegal here. They have some application pending. And DMV treats this as, oh, you have an application pending, so you're waiting for something. So AB6 is not for you, it's for undocumented people, but you have an application pending, so you're not eligible. And they just turn these people away without any driver's license as a result. So what we teach people to do is that they have print out this information from the DMV website about AB60 driver's licenses, and they have to come to the DMV and tell them, not show them any application notices. Just tell them I'm undocumented, I'm out of status, I do not have any immigration documents showing my status. Here's my residence document showing I'm a California resident, and just ask for driver's license based on that, and not mention that they're waiting for e-parole or TPS because it's just going to confuse the hell out of the DMV, and they're just not going to get anything as a result. So as a result of this situation, of course, a lot of people are concerned. A lot of people are scared because everybody's reading the news about, ICE raids, and more and more news spread in the Ukrainian community about the detention of Ukrainians. And those stories are not, many of them do not have a happy ending. So people are legitimately scared. And they may be coming to you with questions, about their applications and about their status and what to do in these situations. I have tried to collect here a few of the most common questions we get and how to respond to them. So one thing people are often wondering is, if they're applied for reparole, their parole is soon expiring, their reparole application is pending, will my reparole application ever be approved? Like, what if it's not approved? So it most likely will be approved. We see that USCIS does approve them for the most part if the person legitimately came here because of the war in Ukraine. If they had a legitimate supporter under the UFU program, they didn't like pay money for sponsorship or anything like that. Um, if they have applied properly in conformance with the rules of the reparole application, and if they have submitted evidence why, that they come from Ukraine, that they've been affected by war. So if they've complied with everything, basically, they will likely be approved. It just unfortunately can take many months, which may result in, them being out of status for 6 months or more, and it does create uncertainty because they're basically here illegally. Some people choose to leave for Europe and not wait in this uncertainty. Many people choose to stay and wait, and it's just the way things are right now. They have to make sure they applied in accordance with the rules, and then just wait. And sometimes the application can be expedited through congressional inquiries. So encourage them to contact their congresspersons and to ask for the status of the application, and sometimes it helps to expedite the approval. How will I provide for my family and pay rent if my work authorization is delayed? Also a very common question. So unfortunately, there's no good answer to this question. If the person, especially, works for hire, they will most likely be laid off once their work authorization expires. So, and as I said, the government assistance is generally not available for people out of status. So provide this person with community resources such as maybe local food banks, some community clinics that take uninsured people. Maybe there's some local rent assistance programs through churches or something like that, because those would be the only options they have other than their circle of family and friends to rely on. Can I continue working if my work authorization has expired? Also a very common question. Well, legally, no. Work authorization authorizes you to work. If you don't have it, you're not authorized to work. So the simple question is no. However, practically, most people do end up working because they just need to pay the bills and put food on the table. And with the 6 or more months delays, there's just no other choice for people. Unauthorized work in reality only creates complications in certain green card application scenarios. So for people who do not have realistic path to a green card, it's less of a concern. They most likely, even if they work illegally, it's not going to affect them in any way in terms of the immigration processes. Moreover, if the person timely applied for reparole or for TPS, even though, as I said, TPS is extended for everyone together, they still have to re-register every 18 months. So if they have timely applied for reparole or if they have re-registered for TPS, their new employment authorization, which they requested with that application, will be backdated to the date of expiration of the previous employment authorization. So if they did everything right and they applied for extension of their EAD right away, when they receive their new card, it will close their kind of unauthorized work gap. So it's not as big of a concern if they work during this period, because like at the end of the day, it's still going to be a period of legal employment. Another question people often ask is, should I pay taxes if I work without work authorization? The answer is yes, absolutely, you should be paying taxes. Undocumented people are expected to pay taxes just like everyone else, and it's not going to make your situation worse. It may make it actually better. So some people are irrationally concerned that the USCIS will somehow find out that they worked illegally because it will get records from the IRS about tax payments. This is not of a concern at all. First of all, if USCIS will inquire whether the person worked illegally or not, they will find out without IRS. Like if a family of 4 was waiting for extension of their status for 6 months, you don't need to be a Sherlock to determine that somebody worked illegally, because how else would they just survive for this time? So, and they have other also means and other inquiries to determine that. So IRS is not going to be the source where they get that information. And if the person does pay taxes, it may actually help them in future immigration processes. For example, I know that some people who apply for asylum, uh, the judges, if it's a court procedure, the judges inquire whether the person paid taxes and whether they submitted honest and truthful tax returns. What should I do if I'm stopped by ICE? We get this question more and more these days because a lot of people are scared that this might happen. So it's unfortunately hard to give a universal advice here because every person's situation is different and every encounter is different, and every person's ability to explain, their situation in English is different. But here's some high-level common advice. First of all, if you're stopped by ICE, do not resist. Do not run from them. Do not argue with them. Do not fight them. Resistance to a federal agent will just make your case a lot worse, and the charges will be a lot worse, and it will be a lot harder to resolve down the line. Always have documents showing your status with you. To have your employment permit card is not enough. They actually want to see the status. So if you are in UHP parole, have your I-94 with you or your parole approval paper with you. If you are in TPS, have your TPS approval paper with you. Know what your status is, when it expires, and be able to explain it to the agents clearly. And have an immigration attorney phone number memorized or written on a piece of paper. When ICE detains a person, they take their phone, so you will not be able to look it up in your phone. It's best to have it like in your pocket or know it, so that if you cannot explain things yourself and cannot resolve the situation, you can call your attorney so that your attorney can explain it. What happens to my children if I get detained by ICE? We get this question a lot, especially from single mothers who are here with their children. Like, will they put my baby in a foster care system if I get detained, or what happens? So it's a good idea. First of all, we don't see women detained as nearly as much as men. So for women, the risks are a lot lower unless you are working ride share where there's a little bit of a more of a risk, or working, in the trucking industry. Other than that, women usually do not get detained. However, it is a good idea to sign a power of attorney over a minor, executed in the name of your family member or a friend who you could trust your child, entrust your child in case you're getting detained. In this case, they will be able to use that paper to sort out the child's school affairs, their doctor appointments and things like that. The examples of power of attorney over a minor are available online. If you just Google it, you can find a sample for California, fill it out with your information, go together to the notary and have it signed. And this is just a one layer of protection if something, God forbid, happens to the parent. And another question that we get often, although there's also unfortunately no good answer to it, is, can I stay in the United States forever? Some people came from cities in the Ukraine where their house was completely destroyed, so they have really nowhere to go back to. Some have spent here for years now. Their children, speak only English. They have friends here. They're going to college here. So people really are looking for pathways to stay here. But unfortunately, there are not many options. So the only realistic options for UHP parolees are basically the three listed on the slides. First, this is a marriage to a US citizen or a green card holder spouse if you're single. However, USS is really cracking down on marriage fraud right now. So just this needs to be a real marriage. If it's a sham marriage for a green card, they will figure it out. They are interviewing spouses separately now and then comparing what each spouse said. So if it's a fabricated story, they will most likely figure this out, and this will have very bad consequences down the line. But this is the most common way to get a green card right now for U.S. For Ukrainian single Ukrainian citizens. The other option is EB1 visa, which gives a path to green card for outstanding researchers, talented people who have, multinational recognition, or high-level executives in multinational companies. That is also a realistic option, which allows some people who have publications in different countries or some participation in contests, who are recognized internationally, to allow them to get a green card. Other employment-based visas, such as EB2, EB3, are theoretically available to parolees. However, they usually take several years to get to a point where you can apply for a green card, and it just doesn't work for people time-wise because their status will not last long enough to wait 4 or 5 years until a green card. And the last avenue to green card is asylum application, which requires the applicant to show that they were personally persecuted by Russian government that occupied Ukraine or by Ukrainian government. Unfortunately, just the fact that there's war in the country is not sufficient for asylum. The person has to show that they individually will be targeted specifically for something they did or they thought or their opinions, their beliefs. So it's for most people, again, it's not an option because of that, because just the fact that they fled Ukraine because of the war, it's not enough to get asylum. So some Ukrainians have applied for asylum, but it's not a universal solution. So this is everything I wanted to tell you today. This is my email address where you can contact me if you have any questions, follow-up questions. We also at Nova Ukraine created this refugee portal, which I want to show you because it contains basic, very easily digestible basic information on common issues that affect Ukrainians. So, for example, we have here, a section how to apply for basic documents like your social security number, your driver's license, your work permit, how to apply for temporary protected status, how to apply for e-parole with instructional videos and step-by-step guides. Health insurance, what types of health insurance are available to you in the United States, how to apply for it, how to find housing and how to rent a house, what kind of welfare assistance is available, how to use banks and credit cards. So it pretty much covers all the frequently asked questions. It's available in 3 languages, English, Ukrainian, and Russian. So if a person comes to you with questions and you don't know the answer, you can always consult this resource, and you can also give them the link so they can read it in their language. So this is all I wanted to talk about today. Irina, if we have any questions, we can cover them now.
Of course. Yeah, thank you so much, Vera, for your insights into what the Ukrainians family are experiencing right now and how to overcome these obstacles and still receiving access to public benefits and to education and find a alternative way to the legal status. And for right now, we have a time for Q&A session, like about 15 minutes. And I just wanted to clarify for the participants, you are able to submit your question via the Google form and just try to be not include your personal case specific in your Parole or TPS application. If it might be applicable to others, you can address these questions, but try to be not specific for your personal questions. So it will be a benefit to other participants. And actually, we receive already a lot of questions in our Google form, and I will start reading one by one. And also you can use the form in the chat, someone who is don't have access to this form. So we have a question number 1. What documents are required for public benefits and how long does the application process take?
So what is usually required is proof of status. So right now, California gives Medi-Cal to everybody, regardless of status. So right now for Medi-Cal, they don't require proof of status. But as you saw, starting January 1st, that's going to change. So for adults, at least, they will require proof of status to enroll in Medi-Cal. So it needs to be a document that shows your status, whether that's I-94 that shows valid parole, or it's TPS approval that shows the person is in TPS, or it can be a work permit card that also shows the status. It's proof of residence, some document which shows the person lives in California, which can be a lease agreement or some utility bills, or sometimes if the person stays with friends, it can be a letter from a friend that says that this person is staying in my house. So some proof that the person lives in California, and documents about income because all benefits are income based. This should be pay stubs or tax return, or if the person is unemployed, can be a declaration, their affidavit saying I'm not employed. So some documents showing what their income is. That's basically it: status, residence, and income. The application takes about up to, I think, food stamp application, to the extent that California is still going to give food stamps to those people, is up to 30 days. Medical and cash assistance programs are adjudicated within 45 days, but oftentimes it's sooner than that. So sometimes they make a decision within a week. The application also usually involves an interview. So once the application is submitted, and it can be submitted online. California has a very convenient portal called benefitscal.com where you can apply for all these programs. And once your application is submitted, somebody will call you from the social services and interview the applicant to verify their income, verify their living situation, and so on. And after that, if everything is fine, then the application will be approved within a few days.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Vera. And also, we will be sharing all the links with Resettlement Agency in the email after the webinar, so you will be able to access and actually get applying for CAL benefit platform, and other resources will be shared by Sira. And also, I wanted to acknowledge, I see a lot of questions if this video will be available in Ukrainian. So once the video will be available online on YouTube, you will have access to Ukrainian subtitles, so you can rewatch it one more time and be going through this information one more time up to your speed. And we have another question. If a Ukrainian has pending parole, will be eligible for medical starting January 2026, or is it changing? Can they pending parole show lawful presence, status for
No,
medical?
no, unfortunately, no. So if they already have medical, they will keep it because California allows everybody to keep medical, even if they're completely undocumented. If you have it, you can keep it. But if they're just applying for medical after January 1st, they will not be eligible if they have pending reparole. It's not considered a lawful presence. Basically, a person with pending reparole is the same as undocumented person, unfortunately. The application for reparole does not give you anything at all in terms of immigration status or privileges. So you are accruing unlawful presence if it takes, if your reparole application takes 8 months, and then you're tired of waiting and you leave the country, you cannot be able to get back into the country because you were here unlawfully for 8 months. So yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't give you anything.
Thank you. And for the next questions, you touched this on, I believe, at the last slide, but I just wanted to reinforce and maybe back to the slides. This is a question was about, to obtain a new legal status of the United States, especially who came after August 2023, so they are not eligible for TPS, only for U4U program. So once more time, what the legal pathway is available for these
So
Ukrainians?
for those who have only U4U, they only they only can do two things without leaving the United States. One, it's a marriage-based green card if they marry a United States citizen or a green card holder. And two, it's asylum. Uh, Everything else requires leaving the United States and applying through consular processing at the consulate abroad, which, if it's a immigration process for a green card, it would require you normally to apply in the country of your nationality, which is Ukraine, which creates additional problem because, as you know, men are, there's a wartime law there, so men cannot leave Ukraine, men of conscription age. So if like a young man wants to apply, for example, for employment-based green card, and he has an employer who is willing to sponsor him and all is good, but because he only has U4U, he cannot change to a green card. He cannot change U4U to a green card within the United States. He has to go to Ukraine, to American consulate for apply for a green card. So that's a challenge.
Thank you. And the another questions are from someone who's asking, are Ukrainians who came in the United States in 2022. So they already apply for parole, and this is like a second parole will be until 2026. And the question is, they are eligible for applying for parole again. So it's like, I mean, the third parole. I mean, the second
Yes,
parole, first parole.
while
They're
the war
eligible.
is going, you're technically eligible to apply for reparole. Whether it's actually going to be granted is a more complex question. But if you are, able to show that you arrived here because of the war and you submit all the documents they require you to submit these days, then yes.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And also, I just wanted to share, Vera create a very comprehensive video in Russian language, how to attach proof of current ongoing war in Ukraine. So we'll be able to process with your reparole application, and we also will be attaching this video. So will have a step-by-step application process, and what the evidence will be showing as a proof. For this new button that's it's show up in your personal cabinet on UCIS platform. Okay, and one question from our partners. Our school has students with TPS status that is expired. What's the best advice to share with the parents?
Well, as I explained, TPS status does not expire. Once it's granted, it's automatically extended for the whole country, and currently it's valid until October 19, 2026. So unless your students received a personal letter from USIS saying that their status has been revoked for some violation, it's not expired.
Thank you. And we have yeah, again, it's the questions I try to combine in terms of different statuses in one place, in one row. And the question was, when will be next succession of TPS? Do you know
Probably
any?
never, unfortunately. As we have seen, this administration has not yet extended it for a single country. All they've done is canceled it for all the countries who are on TPS, whose cancellation date has come up. So I wouldn't hold my hopes up that it would be extended for Ukraine. Unfortunately, even though there's war there and everybody acknowledges it, but this administration is just not in favor of TPS as a concept. So I wouldn't. We hope that will happen, but I wouldn't bet on it.
Yeah, thank you, Vera. And I see also multiple questions in terms of ICE, how to prepare for ICE detention, and like what you need to do when you met officer from the ICE. Actually, together with Sierra on our YouTube channel, Center for Immigrants and Refugee Health, we just like a few days ago posted video in Ukrainian language with together with nonprofit agency Chirla. We go on step by step what do you need to do and what's your rights in situation to meet an officer from the ICE. So I highly recommend it. Visit our YouTube channel and watch this video. And also you will be able to download documents that you can grant it your rights for your children as well. Abivident, I believe this document is named. So please check it out, our YouTube channel.
The only thing I can say is that, well, first of all, it's very helpful if you have good English and you know your status and you can explain it clearly. We know that some people, even though they were detained initially, they were let go quickly thereafter just because they were able to show their documents to the officer and clearly explain what status they're in. Now, it's not in your control if you don't know English and cannot do that, in which case again, just have an immigration attorney who you will call if something happens. And my only recommendation would be choose an immigration attorney who knows how to work with Ukrainians, because unfortunately we've seen that people who get detained sometimes get represented by immigration attorneys who do not know parole well, do not know TPS well. And so they spin the wheels and make arguments that are losing arguments. They're trying to get bond for parolees, which the immigration court cannot even hear. And so it's all a waste of time and the person stays in detention and nothing results from it. Ideally, you want an attorney who has done this before, who has worked with parolees, who knows what's possible and what's not, and who focuses right away on the winning strategies instead of just trying, anything and everything.
Thank you. And also, yeah, we will be sharing and maybe network of attorneys from Ukrainian Immigration Task Force. So it will be list of attorney. You have contact list who speak the language and just have their phone numbers to call them in case of detention. And the another question will be connected to the education. And someone is currently receiving financial aid for college and waiting to hear back on referral status. Where is this FSA handbook? Does it say that my UCIS application can be expedited on basis of losing financial aid? So as I understand this question correctly, if if the situation that this person receive a financial aid will be able to show it as a proof for UCAS application to expedite their request for a referral.
Well, try whatever you can to expedite because if the college finds out that your status has expired, I don't know whether there's like a universal rule for colleges how to handle this or each college decides for themselves, but they can revoke your financial aid until at least for the period for when you're not in parole. So if you are on financial aid and your parole expires, try to expedite it as use everything you can, all arguments you can. Tell the immigration, sure, write a letter to the immigration service saying you need this to continue getting financial aid. Write to your congressman telling the same. Because otherwise you can be in a situation where you'll get a check from the college to return the financial aid.
Thank you. And it's also a lot of like question in terms of housing program. Again, we will share this link in the email, and we just have a few minutes left. I try to pick one more questions. Um, okay, let's see. So this is a question from the resettlement agency from in San Francisco, and they have a legal status as UHP, especially when it's no TPS. So the process real challenges in their eligibility for different programs, like a copy programs for seniors and people with disabilities. They are not considered for PRUCOL program. However, for medical, they are. That might be a mistake from Human Services Agency where workers not quite familiar with UHP on TPS. So they don't know like clarity, whatever they need to do with PRCOL program, and they are not also eligible for the copy because they don't have a TPS. So the
Okay,
question
it's a
it's the
complete
que
confusion here, complete confusion. So UHPs, most of them are eligible for SSI, which is Supplemental Security Income, which is a federal program for elderly and disabled. Every UHP who came, every elderly or disabled UHP who came before on or before September 30, 2024 is eligible for SSI. So you need to apply with the Social Security Administration. You need to show their I-94, which shows their UHP and arrival date, and the Social Security Administration will approve their SSI application. That's it. Now, if you have a person who arrived after September 30, 2024, and is not eligible for federal assistance for that reason, because it's a different fiscal year, then you go again, you first go to SSI, you get a denial from them because this person is not eligible. And then you bring that denial to the state, California, what is it, the social services. And they apply for copy based on that denial of SSI and their I-94 program form, which shows their parole. Parolees are eligible for copy. TPS are not eligible. Parolees are eligible. So if they're only U4U, if they have only U4U, if they're UHP, but they're not eligible for SSI because they came after September 30, 2024, then they can get copy based on the SSI denial and their form I-94. If you were told something different, or if you were denied based on different reasons, then you need to appeal because that's likely a wrongful denial.
Thank you for the extended explanation on this specific question. And we actually run out of time right now. And before we wrap up today's session. I would like to take a moment to thank our presenter Vera Sirova for today's session and share the insight of accessing Ukrainians in California, which was very incredible, valuable, and give us practical takeaway, and we can apply right away. And before we finish the webinar, we would like to hear your feedback from the webinar, and also what subject would like you to hear from us for the next session of SIRA. And I will be sharing the link in the chat. If we have just 2 minutes before closing out the webinar, we will really appreciate your feedback. And thank you so much, Vera, for your
Thank you, Irina.
thank you.